angry bees. She wished she really could explode into bees, because then at least she could fly away after Edgaren't and Essa. Essa especially. A delightful, funny, cool teen girl who had pretended to be their friend and then revealed herself to be their ultimate enemy. While Theo felt trapped, Alexander felt lost. He sat staring blankly at the postcard on the round kitchen table, which was set for 2 and only 2. A reminder that he'd failed everyone except Theo. Because even though none of this was his fault, Alexander still blamed himself. If he were an artist, his specialty would be the worst-case scenario, painting every terrible thing that might happen in any given setting. Part of him believed that if he was careful and cautious and always anticipated what might go wrong, he could see the wrong headed their way and stop it from happening. But he hadn't seen Essa's betrayal coming, and because he had failed, he'd lost Will and Edgar and Quincy and Mina and Lucy and Henry and even poor Mr. Frank. He'd just started trusting himself, but now he didn't know if he should. After all, he'd liked and trusted Essa, and look where that had gotten them. Alexander continued staring at the postcard they'd found tucked into the front of the siren book, but he couldn't figure out what Will had discovered on it. There was the stamp, the barcode printed on the postcard, a photo of his mom with little Will and an unknown woman, and a message to Mina and Lucy's dad, the uncomfortably named Vlad Blood. But there were no secret words, nothing bolded or italicized, nothing that gave him any hints. It was just a note between old friends. He had no idea what he was looking at, or even what he was looking for. Possibilities spun in his head until he felt like a dog chasing its tail. But he also hated that thought, since he was afraid of most dogs, a fact that embarrassed him. So now he was embarrassed in addition to being anxious and stressed out and sad. All he ever wanted to do was keep himself and the people he loved safe, and he couldn't do that. Aunt Saffronia hovered, literally standing an inch above the black and white tiles, near the strange telephone mounted on the wall. She was their aunt in a rather distant and slightly spooky way, having lived and died long before their mother was born. But it felt weird to call her great-great-Aunt Saffronia or Ghost Aunt Saffronia. "I'm sorry," she whispered, wringing her hands. "I'm bound to obey Will's request, since she's the one who summoned me. She told me to keep you safe, so safe is how I must keep you." "What if you sent us back and we promised to be really, really careful?" Theo asked. "Alexander's super careful." Aunt Saffronia shook her head mournfully. "That would be a promise I know you cannot keep. If I take you back to the manor, back to Will and your friends, you will not be safe." "Can you give us a hint?" Alexander asked. "A way we can get around what Will asked you to do?" Their only answer was another sad, ghostly sigh. "That's okay." Alexander could tell Aunt Saffronia wasn't happy about it. Even when he was miserable, he was still sensitive to the emotions of those he cared about. "It must be hard, being bound by other people's rules." She nodded, a thoughtful tilt to her head. "It is. No one has ever wondered how I feel about it before." "I'm sorry," Alexander said. "I'm sorry, too," Theo grumbled. "I know this isn't your fault." She wasn't good at understanding her own emotions, much less other people's, but she understood this. She hated following arbitrary rules, too. Aunt Saffronia wasn't even a kid anymore, much less alive, so it was totally unfair that she still had to do what other people told her to. Theo slouched into a chair beside Alexander and glared at their pile of stuff. Alexander had taken everything out of his suitcase. Next to his neatly folded clothes were 6 of the books they'd stolen back from Edgaren't. They didn't have time to read all of them, so Alexander had set them aside. The Sinister family book and the postcard were their focus, since one was theirs and the other had led Will to a breakthrough. If only she'd told them what she discovered before Aunt Saffronia whisked them away from Essa's trap.